When I was younger, late teens to early 20s, I looked down on people who enjoyed going downtown. I didn't really see the point in driving all the way to a place where you just spent a bunch of money on beer to get drunk and feel sick the next morning. Sure, it's something to do with your friends, but to me it felt like a giant scam to suck money out of people's wallets. I was content to just hang out with 3 or 4 friends at someone's house and play video games or get a little high. I kept this mindset for years until my best friend got a girlfriend who was super outgoing and made tons of friends wherever she went. Naturally, since I was so close to this couple, I got dragged to many places. At first, we only went to people's houses, then the hangout started moving to public places like house shows and small venues. Then, much to my chagrin, we started going to bars. To this day, I don't know where my beef with bars stemmed from. It's not like I had any close relatives or family members who dealt with alcohol abuse or lost everything to their addiction. I think it really was just the overpriced drinks I had a problem with. I don't know, I'm the type of person to let a small aspect of something I disagree with color my whole opinion of the thing in general. It's definitely a flaw in my judgment. I also want to mention all this was happening right at the end of the pandemic when it was finally called off. Anyway, my old life, which consisted of sparse hangouts with friends from high school, outside of my weekly ones with my best friend, turned into weekend-long excursions hopping from venue to bar to house party, then back home when the sun came out. As someone who grew up as an awkward kid pretty much from birth until I graduated high school, it was really hard on my social battery to keep attending functions like this. It was also hard to make small talk or meet new people because of my social ineptitude. Eventually, I started relying on alcohol to loosen myself up. After all, they call it a social lubricant for a reason. And I gained the ability to not give a shit about being awkward and just focus on asking good questions to people and finding out how to vibe with them. If you're predicting that this social crutch of mine eventually turned into an addiction to alcohol, well, you'd be wrong. Because I set up strict rules for myself. I would not have more than 4 light beers in a public place, and if I was having something heavier, I was even more stringent about it. I also made it a point to never drink if I was by myself or even have alcohol in my house. I did let myself get a lot more turned if we were at my best friend's house though, because they're literally my next door neighbor and I could just walk home after shindigs. Over time, I noticed that my meditative practices not only gave me the ability of good discernment when it came to making choices like these, it also let me keep the social skills I learned while getting a little buzzed. Although it's been 3.5 years since I stopped being a recluse, I'm just barely being able to go to social events without having a single drink and mingle with absolutely zero social anxiety. It took an unbelievable amount of introspection and practice to get to the point where I can feel like I can not only have a great conversation with anybody, but also leave them in a better mood and slightly different perspective on life. Not to say I'm the perfect social butterfly, there are still people here and there who don't F with me for whatever reason, but I don't let it bother me. I still try to be polite with them. The point of me telling this story is to show that even the most nerdy, reluctant person who hates going out can totally change the way they approach life and stop making excuses as to why they aren't putting themselves out there more. I used to just tell myself, well, I don't want to go out and meet a bunch of people who I'm not going to be close with. I only really need a handful of people in my life to be tight with, and everyone else is for the birds. But there's more to meeting new people than just gathering a bunch of meaningless acquaintances. There is a dimension to this that can be very useful for advancing not only your mental health, but also career aspects and opportunities. It's true that we are living in a loneliness epidemic. It's probably going to get even worse with tariffs making things more expensive, leaving us with little walking around money. But while going out is still a feasible activity, I recommend doing it, especially if you feel like you'll get nothing out of it. Why? Because for one, humans are social creatures. We need to be around other humans and feel like we are part of a community. Personally, my community consists of those in the alternative and rave scenes, of which there is a lot of overlap in my region. If that's not your kind of crowd, that's totally fine. You can easily join whatever one suits you best. Find out where the people you feel most aligned with hang out. Sometimes it won't even be anywhere near downtown. It could be a local comic book store where a bunch of fellow geeks gather to talk about anime or play card games and D&D. You could find out where the artists like to hang out by going to art markets and opening shows for exhibits. Finding these niche communities can be challenging, but if you have Instagram, you can look through cool people's following lists to find these kinds of places. The The algorithm could even serve them to you on your feed. Another big reason to put yourself out there is for networking purposes. My best friend's girlfriend was not a well-known person in the local scene when I first met her, but over time she used her skills as a performing artist to make connections and gain followers. Eventually she knew all the important people in the event planning space because she was always working with them. This got her things like free entry to events, invitations to exclusive parties, and opportunities to meet higher clients wanting to pay her to perform at their gigs. This can not only work on the local level. Obviously, there's people making these kinds of connections on the internet as well, but it's a more tangible benefit to be well known locally. People respect you right off the bat. It's like you have pre-screened Riz. This is a phenomenon called social proof, where people who don't know how to treat you at first treat you well because your company is higher status. So at this point, you might be thinking, well, I don't really care about this stuff. I don't need to make more connections. I don't need strangers to like me. I don't need these kinds of opportunities. And to be honest, that's perfectly valid. I'm really just illustrating that there is a whole other dimension to going out than having meaningless fun and wasting your money on alcohol. It's an avenue to find new friends, a career, or even a partner. I used to think that there were no good people to meet downtown or at venues, but some of the coolest people I ever met in my life are actually out here doing stuff and making things happen. Having a music career or being involved in event planning may seem to some like a superficial path with pipe dream aspirations, but if you're passionate about a creative project you can share with others in person, getting yourself out there can mean the difference between a hobby and something you can make good money off of. As someone who is introverted his whole life, I definitely wouldn't have ever considered making going out a weekly habit, and it's really a miracle that I kept begrudgingly going along with my friends, because I never would have discovered this socially attuned side of myself sitting alone at the computer in my room. At the end of the day, that has been the biggest benefit by far. I'm no longer afraid to talk to other people, I'm not afraid of small talk, and I love making all kinds of connections. I realize now that this is the natural state of being human. It's not rotting in bed and engaging with others through a screen. While I understand that some people may have neurodivergencies that prevent them from living this kind of life, everyone else should make it a point to get out more, because there's a very deadly disease going around today called loneliness, but through community and friendship we can give each other the cure.